Steven Crowder with top 5 leftist protester myths. Steven, take it away.
It would be great if no one broke the law.
Right,
It would be great if everyone understood their constitutional rights and appropriate interaction with police officers. It would be great if people waited an hour for evidence. It would be great if Ilhan Omar didn't tweet out 2-year-old videos to stoke the flames of racial hatred. But that's not the world that we live in.
Wait, what video did Ilhan Omar tweet out? Because I know there have been a lot of, I guess I need to, there's been a lot of,
Because that's why we're here, to protect our communities, our families, our children, our youth.
if it's more than a year old, you did, oh yeah, obviously, that makes sense, Magno. There's been a lot of stuff tweeted out, that is recycled footage from other protests and whatnot. Let's see. Problem is, I'm assuming she deleted it, so even if I went back through her tweet history, whatever. I'm sure he'll talk about it. It's almost certainly bullshit anyway. Yeah, the statute of limitation on racism, absolutely.
And so the best that we can do at this point is get to the truth. And that requires waiting just a minute. My question of the day to all of you is, have you noticed a lot of the stories about the police treating protesters unfairly? Just like Black Lives Matter, I think we had to remove that because it was considered offensive from YouTube with the whole Vox Apocalypse purge a while back. But it's available, of course, for people who are watching exclusively at loudwithcrowder.com/mugclub on the Blaze. Yeah. But do you notice that they turn, if you just wait a little bit for the evidence, they usually turn out to be false? And also, let's say that's not the case. Let's say there wasn't a storied track record of that. It still is prudent to wait a little bit. And again, just like the idea of Black Lives Matter.
Examples, please? Instead of just claiming all this evidence, because while often there is some overlap with, there is some jumping to conclusions in high emotion situations, the idea that the vast majority of the time information came out that, because obviously what he's trying to do here is discredit that the killing of George Floyd was somehow a tragedy or whatever. I had someone in real life tell me they would support the protesters if they hadn't pulled the race card. Damn them for wanting to get equal rights just because of the color of their skin.
Hands up, don't shoot, was hands were down, he was reaching for the thing that shoots, the cop's gun.
That's a different
So
thing.
it was predicated on a lie. The truth matters.
What? Hold up, that... Oh, God. Hands up. There's been so many, I don't remember which one that was. Michael Brown, okay. Wait. Wapo, what are you saying here? Strays became a rallying cry for Ferguson, right. No, fuck off. Okay, I guess I won't read this, Wapo. Fuck off.
We're on the sidewalk. We live this way. We're on the sidewalk. We're on the sidewalk. We're on the sidewalk. We're on the sidewalk.
Hey, this isn't... Okay. Whoppers dominate the Washington Post annual list of the biggest political Pinocchios of 2015. published Monday, but among a collection of dubious statements that are in 4 Pinocchios from Republican poll leaders. These words rose to the public conscience following the August 2014 shooting of Michael Brown by police officer Darren Wilson in Ferguson, Missouri, rang hollow with federal investigators. As the Post first noted in its March 19 fact check, not confirmed testimonies to the effect that Brown had been holding his hands above his head and telling Wilson not to shoot him. Okay. Then a rallying cry for protesters and others trying to draw attention to the death of Brown and other African Americans at the hands of police officers. Ran out on the field during their hands raised above their head. Okay. So is there not video of this? Okay. Sure.
Matters when you're going to try and take a human interest story, which of course I think it's effective, and it should be. People should care about human beings. We should love one another and love other human beings, but then to
also remember that he said that actually he had his hands down going for the thing that shoots, when I haven't seen any evidence of that either. So even if he didn't have his hands up and was yelling "don't shoot," you also have no evidence that he was reaching for the gun. So good job, Crowder. Good job.
Obfuscate the actual data. Which we've addressed the data, but now I want to get into specifically with these Black Lives Matter protesters, a lot of the most viral clips, or the hashtag justice for, insert lie here. So let's go through the top 5 examples of I guess, initial clips.
So many.
Initial clips or claims that then when you provide context, sort of change them, put them in a different light. So the first one that comes to mind is there was a man who was hit by a car and people were calling for the head. I don't remember his name specifically because it was a white guy, so no one really cares.
No.
They just wanted him dead because he hit a protester. Which at first, that sounds terrible.
Sounds bad.
Yeah.
And the guy has all the tattoos, so he's like straight from Central Casting to be someone you'd want to hate.
Yeah.
But Central Casting, facts do not make. Yeah. Let's remember this just to refresh your memory.
See what they gonna do about it. He just hit an innocent black man and he's a white man. Let's see what y'all do about it.
Someone is dying and they're walking!
Yeah, run,
gosh.
run.
Words on your face,
Look at this right here.
And they were really mad because they're letting the guy smoke a cigarette.
No, where your family come from? Where your family come from?
Peaceful.
That's the mob.
Wow.
You know exactly what you're getting.
That's the mob. Yeah, if someone hit a protester, hit anyone with their car, and then they were just chilling there while the cops protected them, yeah, I'd be pretty pissed too.
Now, I don't know a whole lot about this backstory, but there's a general rule for personal protection. If you don't want to be accused of being white supremacist, don't shave your heads and do a white goatee.
Yeah.
Don't put on the team
Just
uniform.
to stay safe.
Not saying it makes you guilty, but it doesn't help. So here's the truth about this, because people were immediately saying, this man needs to be put in custody.
Right.
Why isn't this man being treated brutally by police officers? Let's assume for a second that he actually did hit a protester, maybe deliberately. Let's assume that this is a guy who... There's a difference between... A lot of people say white crime. These people commit crimes that are far worse. Why do they get minimum security prisons? Well, there's a difference between violent crime, or a crime that is an immediate threat to the officer, and something that isn't. I can arrest a Bernie Madoff and not worry about it turning into rape in the shower. That's also why you can put people in a minimum security resort and not worry about it turning into rape in the shower.
Yeah.
So the truth here is that the protester was hit while walking out into the middle of traffic. Multiple witnesses. Again, before the jury pool was tainted.
Okay. Video evidence and physical evidence. Let me see. Okay, this says Global News. Let me see if I can find this article. Always fact check. Crowder. Okay. Okay, globalnews.ca. Okay. Video contains disturbing images. No, I would not like notifications from you. Thanks. Okay. So a whole bunch of people are protesting in the street. The hell is this fucking... Okay. Black man who was hit by a car while protesting the death of George Floyd in California has died. Sergeant Nathan McCauley said police were alerted to the scene at 10:24 p.m. after Robert Forbes was hit walking on a roadway with other protesters. Said several officers who appeared to be calmly walking over to the driver's vehicle while onlookers can be heard pleading for them to run. The victim had already been receiving aid at that point, according to McCauley, who addressed the incident video posted to Facebook. Since surrounded by police leaning on a car smoking a cigarette, at no point is he handcuffed. Okay. Not really killed a man here that somebody loves, somebody cared for, somebody's son. Yeah, even if it was an accidental hit, his complete nonchalance about this is pretty telling. I'm sorry, didn't mean to hit this guy, injure him, anything. I don't listen to the news. I didn't know anyone was protesting, let alone where. Okay. His headlights on, Forbes was hit by the car and was traveling at a speed consistent with the flow of traffic. But the driver was not traveling above the... Okay. Was not a hit and run. So at least two people on the scene believe the driver had attempted to avoid the collision by swerving to the right prior to it occurring. I was treated more favorably because of his race. Ugh. Okay. Okay, dude. So, I mean, whether it was intentional or not, and it's hard to say with this shitty quality what exactly happened, but it definitely seems to me that there was some sort of like, he definitely was hit and he probably should have been charged. Like, I'm not sure what Crowder is saying here, because it seems like people were maybe being a little hyperbolic in the moment, which is to be expected when someone, probably a friend, gets hit in a protest like this.
Said that the driver tried to swerve and avoid him, and the driver was going the speed limit and wasn't intoxicated. So what does that tell you right away? Okay, speed limit, obeying it. They did a breathalyzer, some kind of toxicology test, and then they right away went to eyewitnesses, and many of them were corroborated.
Yeah.
Now that matters because one is a horrible, violent crime that is inspired by hatred, and one is an accident because somebody else was breaking the law.
You know, if you're going like 30 miles an hour and hit someone, that can still be pretty fucking fatal. You don't have to be speeding in order to deliberately hit someone.
Law in walking through the middle of traffic, and
again, the issue is his complete nonchalance as he's standing there surrounded by police, having just severely injured and ultimately having killed someone. Right, he didn't know that the guy was going to die at the time, but Jesus, at least show a little empathy and remorse for hitting someone if it was, in fact, an accident.
Unfortunately, horribly, a tragedy occurred, and that's also why we've always said these riots won't help. Please stop them.
Yeah.
Here's another one. This was the biggest one for a couple of days. Yeah. Then it went away. And by the way, let's not let these go away. No. Just like impeachment, no, I want that election. Just like COVID, no, I want that election. Just like hands up, don't shoot, I want you to bring it back up. I want anyone who makes that claim to be put on display for the public to argue the truth. Corin Gaines. Remember, we got all kinds of flack. We got temporarily suspended on Instagram. She was holding a shotgun and using her child as a human shield. You can't hear the name Corin Gaines anymore. Right. James Scurlock will be one of those, right? Yeah. This was the first headline. It was a white bar owner in Omaha shot and killed a black protester, and he wouldn't face any charges. They said that his dad owned the bar, that he was screaming the N-word, that he basically went out and hunted a black person. And the problem with this, especially when it's not true, is you were creating a false narrative that it's black versus white, or that white people have had a secret meeting where we would be okay with some other white guy going out and shooting an innocent.
No. No one is saying that there's a group of white hegemons in a smoke-filled room with the lights super dim and they said, okay. It's open season on black folk. Get those N-words. No. But when white people are disproportionately underpunished for harming black people, when cops are disproportionately underpunished for it, it doesn't have to be some Illuminati-like council making a decision in order for people to decide that there is some sort of dual standard, which there definitely fucking is, between the way white people are prosecuted for a crime and black people are prosecuted for the same or similar crime.
Innocent black civilian solely based on race. I don't know. Maybe it's because I choose my association carefully, aside from Trumbo over here. I do not know a single white person who would be okay with that.
No.
Well, thankfully, there's security
Of course you have to say that on YouTube. We all know your feelings, Crowder.
camera footage. And it turns out that the man in question, the man who shot James Scurlock, had actually been mounted and pummeled into the concrete twice. Scurlock, the man who was shot, was the second person after the first two guys who were pummeling him were scared off with a warning shot. Here's a clip.
Shortly after this point, two people jump on the bar owner's back. There's a struggle in the street. Jake Gardner
Peaceful
fires
protesters.
2 shots.
2 shots.
11 seconds.
Wow, it's almost like someone approaching you with a gun and you decide to fucking defend yourself. Was there any damage to the bar? Or was he just like I have no issue with someone who is afraid of their business being looted and ransacked or what have you. Just being a presence there and defending himself. But he went out onto the sidewalk and fired a warning shot. But no, these are peaceful protesters, so what are they doing? They're not really peaceful. You think maybe he instigated it by going out onto the sidewalk and firing off a warning shot?
Seconds later, James Scurlock jumps on the back
Glad I could help, Magmel.
of the bar owner. They wrestle in the street.
Wow.
Listen.
What do you
It's
expect
the
the guy to do?
He has a shotgun. I'm not sure if Omaha is a stand your ground state or not, or Nebraska is a stand your ground state or not. I think it is. But even if it's not, he had a shotgun and was deliberately instigating these people. Yeah. Maybe they jumped him before he could shoot them. And I'm not saying that the protesters were totally in the right there. They probably should have just moved on. But to say that the shooter was totally innocent of any wrongdoing in this situation, and that it's entirely the protesters' fault, is just as wrong as saying the protesters are totally innocent here too.
Second time. The guy fired warning shots for the first 2. 3 strikes, you're shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we hate that somebody had, died for this, but when you attack somebody, especially in a mob situation, Stephen, you were in a mob situation where you got attacked before. Like,
sure,
your head is on survival. Your head is, oh my God, I have no idea where the next attack is coming from.
Yeah.
Somebody jumps on his back.
Maybe he shouldn't have gone out into the street or onto the sidewalk rather, and confronted the protesters. Again, I have no issue with business owners or what have you being a presence in their business if they're afraid of it being looted. I think they're probably overreacting, and probably most of them are racist if that's their belief. But hey, the law is you can defend your property. More power to you. But if you leave your property and go out onto the sidewalk to confront protesters with a shotgun, maybe you're going to get a little pushback. Maybe you're going to get jumped by people who don't want to get shot. Frankly, the fact that the first thing the people who jumped him did wasn't take the shotgun away is probably part of the issue. I know it can be difficult to disarm someone, but they put him on the ground pretty easily.
The first thing he's going to do is I got to protect myself. There could be three more coming.
Let me be really clear here. I'm not sad that in this specific instance someone was shot. I'm sad of the actions that took us here from our leaders.
Yeah.
I don't think that I'm
We know you're not sad someone was shot, Crowder. You don't care about human life.
Actually happy that
particularly black people's lives.
Man who was being pummeled for the second time was able to defend his life and limb.
I am too, yeah.
But I'm really sad that, contrary to the opinions of people like ourselves, said, please stop these riots going on. We need law and order. This is going to result in more deaths across the board. Nobody listened and not a peep about these protests because they weren't people actually demanding that they can.
You want to stop these protests, Crowder? Also, how do I keep managing to pause this in the derpiest pose? I love it. You want to stop these protests, Crowder? Here's how you stop the protests. End police brutality. End qualified immunity. End the school to prison pipeline. These are the results of decades of actions and inactions on the part of our leaders and police force. Now, the property damage sucks, and I mourn for the people who died. But only a complete racist asshole would say that they have no right to be in the streets doing this.
Can open up their businesses, as with COVID-19. Remember when that was a thing? Yeah. Number 3 in all of these, and I want you to let me know of ones that maybe I've missed. It's really hard to pick them out.
There's so many.
This was another white man, and people remember that I don't want to say critic, art critic in Dallas, yeah. the vandal in Dallas. The vandal,
yes.
Why, when you read a report, why do they say black man and they don't say white guy? I don't know about you. I've always seen in these last few, even if it's a white guy who's innocent, like white man defends life by shooting black looter.
Even when it's like an Asian or a Hispanic person, they say white man now, just to kind of lump it all together.
Don't foreshaddw.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that part.
So white man, you're too busy reading the Communist Manifesto.
I was.
We don't know what you're
interesting.
up to.
It's good to know history.
This was a white man who supposedly, the first story that you heard was drove into protesters, jumped out, and then shot someone. Here's a clip.
Is that a fucking Mac-10 or Uzi or some shit? Looked like it had the box top and extended mag. What the fuck?
Oh God, they had a gun. He's got a gun. He's got a gun.
Now remember, this was the #1 trend at this point.
Oh my God.
So,
wow.
And obviously, listen, what happens there is that is a tragedy in the sense it's an unfortunate situation that could have been avoided at so many points in this timeline. That to me is the greatest tragedy.
Yeah.
There were so many points to stop rioting and looting and some kind of an insurrection from people trying to defend their neighborhoods. And by the way, if the left had their way now with complete disbanding of the police, then you end up with vigilante justice. I'm saying the same thing now. Don't do this, Minneapolis. You're going to see more violence. I don't
That's why we don't want to completely destroy law enforcement. We want to change the way it's happening. Again, another great derpy fucking pose from Crowder. We don't want to completely abandon law enforcement as a concept. We want to just maybe make it so that it's not full of white supremacist thugs who want to just live out their power fantasies on less privileged people. And maybe make it so that the people who are enforcing our laws are also held accountable to those same laws. I know, radical concept, but there it is.
Want to see more lives lost? Black, white, red, yellow. I don't care.
No.
Can we say red? Sorry. Black,
All.
white, yellow, First Nations. Speaking of a white guy who shot the Peru
Ha 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 ha.
ran over the protest and then shot him with a car. Turns out the white man in question was Nicholas Fernandez.
Oh, that sounds white to me.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound.
When
And
I
I
think
did
white
not
guy,
see
think-
that. I wasn't intentionally stepping on a joke.
No,
like
I
normally
know.
do, but
Now,
I didn't
he
see that.
he claimed that he wasn't familiar with the area, that he got stuck going the wrong way down a one-way street, and then according to witnesses, a protest reached in the window and
This man in the black car, a known white supremacist, was clearly planning to run protesters in Seattle over. He then shoots a man. Yeah. I didn't see him being chased. I saw him run into the crowd. Man allegedly reached inside the car to try to take a gun and got shot in the arm. Driver surrendered himself to police immediately. Is that what he was doing? Held on first-degree assault. Yeah. Argued that Fernandez was on his way to work at the Nike store downtown. He'd been recently hired to provide security. He got caught going the wrong way down a one-way street. Bringing out a fear of the protesters who thought would try to jack his. Why would you think they were trying to jack your car, dude? Also, why do you have a gun in the car? Looks like he just got fucking tactical. Got another mag taped to the bottom or something. What the fuck? This is someone who was going to the area expecting a fight. You don't do that kind of shit if you're not expecting to have to reload quickly. That's exactly the purpose of that kind of tactic.
tried to grab his gun and got shot.
I want to abolish the police for sure, but maybe not today. It's step one in the process. Either way, though, Minneapolis is based. Exactly. Yes, Magmel. I agree. I do want to abolish the police eventually, but I recognize that right now we need some sort of law enforcement organization. But what we currently have in the modern day police force is not working. So maybe we can try something fucking different.
Shot.
Oh, in Andy Ngo, of course. Yeah, I missed that was who had posted this shit. Hashtag Antifa.
Now he is being held on charges of first-degree assault, which, you know, this is where it's difficult if you don't actually have evidence at that point. You are going on eyewitness testimony, and unfortunately, because at this point people think the end.
Let's look. What was that dude's name again? Nicholas Fernandez. I'm just curious because apparently this all started with him going down the wrong way on a one-way street. Let's see. No, it's Nicholas. I had to spell right the first time. Okay. So just want to see how long he's been in Seattle. Because I can count on one hand the number of times I've gone the wrong way on a one-way. It's once. No, twice. And both times I was a little turned around. So I'm okay, sure. I can buy that he turned the wrong way on a one-way, especially if there was a protest going on. Maybe he misunderstood which street he was on. But that doesn't excuse him pulling out his gun and shooting people. First court appearance was apprehended by police Sunday evening after allegedly driving into demonstrators on 11th Avenue. Okay. And a black car crashed into a metal barricade on 11th Avenue. Demonstrators surrounded the car and started kicking and punching it. The man appeared to shoot a protester and then exit the vehicle carrying a gun. Snaked through the crowd toward the frontline barriers, separating police from protesters on Pine Street. Over the intercom, the Seattle Police Department said they apprehended the man and the gun. I responded to a man who had been shot on 11th Avenue. As a 27-year-old man who was in stable condition. Several medics surrounded the victim, who was black, and provided care, applying a tourniquet around his top right arm. The injured guy, reportedly named Daniel, got up and walked down 11th to support of the medics. 9th day of demonstrations against police brutality. So here he comes. Yeah, this smells hinky to me. I mean, of course they're going to believe him. They're going to believe Crowder is going to believe Fernandez on site over anyone else. But yeah, it just smells hinky to me.
Now he is being held on charges of first-degree assault, which, this is where it's difficult if you don't actually have evidence at that point. You are going on.
Even if the people were trying to jack his car, which there's no evidence of, it's clear that they were just like. Allegedly, the guy who reached into the car was trying to grab the gun from him, which probably not a good idea, but I understand in the moment that action. He still had no right to shoot the guy. And why would he get out and run like that? Like that, it just smells hinky to me.
Eyewitness testimony, and unfortunately, because at this point people think the end justify the means. Yeah. That all they're not going to tell the truth. A lot of these people. How do you get some people going? He yelled the N-word, and the other 5 people say no, he didn't. No. How do you get one person, 5 people saying well, he reached for his gun, and one person saying no, he just went out and ran them over, and he was waving the Confederate flag? It's well, one of these is not like the other, and truth matters, and that's the real problem here with this.
Except we have video of what happened. And while I'll admit there's a lot of deep fakes available, a lot of ways to edit video, we kind of have to take video on faith unless we can prove that it's somehow prove that it's fake, which is actually harder than you think from what I've been reading. All that said, it looked like I'll take him at his word. He made a wrong turn onto a one-way, came barreling down the road. And maybe the protesters overreacted to it. I don't know. There was no sound in that clip. Even if there was, it wouldn't have been useful. And someone probably, not intelligently, but, understandably tried to disarm him when they saw the gun. And he shot them. If you were innocently lost and just trying to get to work, why would you shoot them? More importantly, why would you have your gun out like that? Like, I'm not asking why he had a gun. My dad goes to work armed every day himself, and we're not in a place where there have been constant protests and riots. So, I'm not asking that question. I'm asking, why was it out in a place where someone could reach for it and you could then shoot them? Like, that implies to me that it was like sitting on the seat next to him. Which is not a smart place, even in an open carry state, for your gun to be in a tense situation like this. So it sounds like there were poor decisions on both sides. But the worst decisions were on Fernandez's side.
I hate to say us versus them tribalism because that's something that fence-sitting centrists often use, and I don't mean it in the sense that you shouldn't pick a set of values to adhere to, but in this case, if you are being questioned by a cop, your first duty. It is a requirement under the law is to tell the truth. By the way, hit the notification bell, hit all notifications. If you're watching on the YouTube, because subscriptions don't mean a whole lot, you can subscribe to the audio podcast. And please do consider joining at louderwithcrowder.com/mug club. You get this wonderful mug.
Fuck off,
80%
Crowder.
content, of course, the entire Blaze catalog. Myth number 4. This is another one. Number 4 of an example. Remember this one that an NYPD officer that shot an unarmed 13-year-old 19 times, right? This was something that we also read. What's the truth? And this comes from NBC New York. It was actually a 34-year-old armed gunman who had just shot someone.
Wow.
Yeah, you could say that's different.
Now, I know some people say, well, you're only believing the cop report. Well, hold on a second. Methinks that the person who was shot or witnesses have something to say. There was also ballistic testing.
Oh. Boy.
So it's more than, just, well,
Darn
he
evidence.
said something mean. Is that your 45 there? You right.
Different.
Now, I know what's the truth? And this comes from NBC.
Notice how he only flashed it
It was
up for a
actually a
second.
34-year-old.
Okay, from his video spread on social media, the shooter may have been a boy as young as 13 years old. The shooter was 34 years old and just shot another man. Okay. So it's okay for the cops to kill him because he was suspected. After NYPD find man shot in Brooklyn. It's NBC New York. Okay, here's NBC New York. This is the exact article. Okay. Shot a 34-year-old suspected gunman after they responded to
We're
reports
staying
of
on
a
top
shooting.
of developing news in Brooklyn. Meanwhile, a deadly police-involved
Shots fired in Crown Heights just before 9:30 p.m. Tuesday night, according to the Chief of Department Terrence Monahan. They were conducting their search in the area around the intersection of Bergen Street and Rochester Avenue. They found a man who had been shot and crawled away after suffering the injury. Went to look for the shooter and discovered that he was hiding behind a tree between a nearby camp playground and a fence. Monahan said, "I was coming toward the cop with a gun raised, according to the police. After instructing the suspect to drop the gun for around a minute, Monahan said approximately 10 cops then opened fire, striking the suspect multiple times."
shooting happening a short time after curfew went into effect across New York City. Today, New York's Tracy Strahan's live in Crown Heights with what we know this morning. Good morning, Trace.
Well, Darlene, good morning to you. People are surprised by just how many shots were fired here.
Okay. Shooting. Okay. I mean, I would still stand behind that's a little bit of undue. What's the word I'm looking for? Undue force if they shot him 19 times when he was coming forward with his hands up. And allegedly told him to drop the gun for a minute. Who knows how long they actually were telling him that, but still, Crowder is going to spin this as Twitter using inaccurate information when the fact of the matter is that the police shot a man 19 times when, by their own admission, he had his hands up. Granted, one hand was holding a gun. I understand that. That's slightly different. But this is why they have things like tasers and fucking body armor. I remember that jackass we talked to last week was like, you know how a human can cover 21 feet in 3 seconds or whatever he was talking about? You're telling me that these police who are trained fighters can't close and take him out so that they don't have to kill someone? Nah, they just wanted to kill him.
Year-old armed gunman who had just shot someone.
Wow.
Yeah, you could say that's different.
Now, I know some people say, well, you're only believing the cop report. Well, hold on a second. Methinks that the person who was shot or witnesses have something to say. There was also ballistic testing.
Oh.
So it's more than, just, well,
Darn
he
evidence.
said something mean. Is that your 45 there? You right.
Dang.
Number 5, and this one even surprised me, because Ilhan Omar tweeted out this video, and I want to be clear about this. The context really matters here because there are 2 layers of lies. This was an example tweeted out by Ilhan Omar just, I think, 2-3 days ago. I think it might have been June 5th, and everyone saw this. This trended, of course. Thanks, Squad. She was providing information as to why police can't be reformed. Was the context. Here we go.
My husband's a photographer in there.
Where?
Station,
Go get her husband. Go get her husband. Where's she at? Where's he at?
Now, by the way, that officer is actually not choking that woman. You can see right away
Don't
she's
choke her
clearly
out,
not
bro.
out.
What are you doing?
Right now,
She's
he's
not
not
even
choking.
moving.
He's not choking. That was pretty much the international sign of an arm bar when you wrap your arm around their throat and then hold on to your hand with the other arm. No, definitely not choking her out there.
Not even moving. No,
Okay.
it's not even cool, dude. What the
This is something people see how I told you
Not
where the
even
weight
moving.
would be on the
Yeah.
back. You couldn't put weight on the neck in that scenario.
Stop what? She's not moving.
Shut up, sir.
What the fuck?
Weight, his weight is probably at best evenly distributed between her back and her fucking neck. So I'm guessing this is the 2-year-old video he was talking about. And even if this is 2 years old, sure, it still is demonstrable of police brutality. Like, choking her unconscious and then putting his whole fucking weight on her back and neck.
Holy shit. Hey, where's your husband at?
At the photographer station.
Okay, so she wasn't unconscious. My bad.
Okay. Here's what shocked me, because I did initially look at the website. I think this happened in Bellevue, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
It was a local police department, so I often go to the local source and try and read the report myself. And it was an appropriate use of force. There are also, before we get to it, here's actually some video. There is nothing with the entire context of the video, but this one shows you that she was resisting arrest, obviously. And then in the report, she reached for the gear shift and continually reached in her purse. When the police officer said, please stop, he thought she could be reaching for a weapon. And then this video starts where you can see the resisting arrest occur long before that video.
Using me. I do not want a contract. No.
Stop or you're going to ground.
I asked you for a sheriff.
I'm getting some sovereign citizen vibes from her. I did not ask you for a contract and asked for a sheriff. I mean, this is definitely some excessive force. I'm not trying to say the cop is innocent here. But if she was giving up the sovereign citizen memes, then that is... Sovereign citizens, for those who don't know, sovereign citizens are a loosely affiliated group of people who believe that due to a misinterpretation of an old version of a law book, that there's a number of wacky things they believe, like that as long as you're not using your vehicle for commerce, it doesn't need licensed, and you don't need a license. As long as if you don't submit to joinder or contract, then the police can't do anything to you, or that city or state police don't have any authority, only sheriffs do. They're basically wannabe legal wizards. They think that if they memorize a handful of magic phrases, they can get out of just about anything. And it's obviously all bullshit because it's not based on any real law. But like, there's definitely an appearance of some excessive force, but like, I don't want to say she had it coming, but if she's using some sovereign citizen stuff, then she definitely needed a reality check, but probably not that kind of reality check.
For a sheriff. My husband's a good photographer. In there, please go get him.
Get on the ground. I'm gonna put you out. On your stomach. On your stomach.
I'm on my
Arms
stomach.
out like an airplane.
I can't.
Arms out like an airplane. I'm gonna put you out.
Arms out, or I'm going to put you out. But he definitely wasn't choking her. No.
Okay, so that provides a little bit more context.
that matters, yeah.
Here's
Yeah.
something else that matters. That's a video from an incident that's 2 years old.
Oh my gosh.
2 years old. Now, I know it's tough to look at, but this is important. That officer did not choke that woman, and that's a problem you're going to have right now. When you say you can't have any vascular restraints, well, guess what? If anyone out there who does grappling, you know, if you miss a choke, for example, or anyone who watches the UFC, what you can see is if you miss a choke and someone doesn't go out, what happens is it turns into a neck crank.
Yeah.
You end up either crushing the jaw or you have to crank the neck. You need to control somebody, right? You need to be able to control a perp. When you see that video, this is something a lot of people may not recognize, but there's a position called knee on belly if someone is on their back. You are putting your knee on their belly, all of that weight. How we are taught this in classes, this leg should be able to move around.
Right, exactly.
All of your weight should be on the belly. If you put that weight on the neck, you couldn't control them. They would immediately slide out. It would hurt for half a second.
Right.
In that scenario, what you see is a restraint, and you clearly see him pivot around from her back. She is not unconscious. He wasn't choking her. He was putting her in that position to try and control her, and then gets her in a shoulder lock where all his weight is on her back, and this other leg acts as a block for her arm. He wouldn't be able to pull off that pivot and maneuver if the weight was on her neck. But everyone's going to be looking for it now. Careful what you wish for. If you tell officers they cannot use any vascular restraints, you're probably going to end up with more joint and neck injuries. And I do think it should be a last resort. But what do you do when someone... By the way, you don't get to call for the sheriff. I want a sheriff. Sheriff. Well, you know what? Maybe he'll be at the police department, or maybe he'll be off on vacation. I don't know. Oh, there you go, into the clink.
Yeah. Well, and it was being, like, hey, do not move. Do not move. When he had her, when he was restraining her, saying, hey, do not move, because she had been resisting before, because she had been messing around
and
before,
reaching in her purse,
right? And reaching for stuff. Like,
how often do you see vehicular slaughter on police officers?
Oh, yeah.
It's super common. That's why now, when we were growing up, we didn't have to cut nearly as wide of a swath with police officers. But because there were record numbers of police officers being hit, they now had to take certain precautions. Yeah. And none of it is something that we're happy about. It would be great if no one broke the law. Right. It would be great if everyone understood their constitutional rights and appropriate interaction with police officers. It would be great if people waited an hour for evidence. It would be great if Ilhan Omar didn't tweet out 2-year-old videos to stoke the flames of racial hatred. But that's not the world that we live in.
She wasn't trying to stoke the flames of racial hatred. She was pointing out that this is an ongoing issue of police brutality. You fucking moron. And also, he's taking a lot on faith that that cop was properly putting all his weight on her back and no weight on her neck, which... I don't know. Let's go back to that video. Let's see. We're at 15:49, so I can come back to this. Let's see. So here we go. Okay.
Station.
Okay.
What? She's not.
See right away.
Don't
She's
choke her
clearly
out,
not
bro.
out.
What are you doing?
Right now,
She's
he's not
even
choking.
moving. She's not even moving. No,
Okay.
It's not even cool, dude.
This is something people see.
So I just want to point out, look at his body. It is perfectly vertical, relatively speaking. I would expect if this leg was supposed to be, mobile, if there was no weight on it, that he would be leaning at least a little bit to his right here. Leaning a little bit over here. Just because that's how you shift your fucking weight. And also, a, 210, 220, with 30 or 40 pounds of gear on, 220-pound man with that much weight of gear on, putting all of his weight on her back like that, and you're telling me that's not going to cause issues? Even if we take Crowder at his word, and that this training is what it is supposed to be, and blah, 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 that there's no weight on her neck, that it's all on her back, and this is just to restrain her, to put her in cuffs. there's still the matter of, even if all his weight is right here, that's still going to cause problems. And again, the issue was not, well, a little bit of the issue was Chauvin's neck on Floyd's, or Chauvin's knee on Floyd's neck. But it was mostly the amount of time he was there. Now, to this officer's credit, he cuffs her and appears to get her up pretty quickly. So, you know, this may be one of the good ones. But, again, this is a situation where the hyper-awareness of cops for dangerous situations and this training they receive where everyone is out to get you and they're all going to try to kill you is an issue. Because he assumed she was reaching for a gun when she very well may have been reaching for exonerating information. I'm very curious, and I know that Crowder's not going to say anything about it, whether they found, like, her registration or whatever in her purse.
But that's not the world that we live in. And so the best that we can do at this point is get to the truth. And that requires waiting just a minute. Hey, if you enjoyed this...
I did not, Crowder. Yeah, I don't actually fully disagree with him there that we should probably wait for all the facts to come in with these situations. There's definitely a lot of misinformation available, and when it comes to particularly police interactions, that can get escalated very quickly and easily, even by people who are actually innocent. But I don't think the answer is to forgive cops. I think we need to hold police accountable for their actions, particularly when those actions result in injury or death, even if the victim is guilty of a crime. You don't get away with murder because the victim was a drug addict or a bank robber. Like, there's a reason why most security guards, like at Walmart or whatever, won't chase you once you're out of the building. Because if they chase you down and tackle you and you get injured, they're on the hook for that. And it's a lot cheaper for them to replace whatever you stole. Even if you stole a dozen flat screens somehow, you know, you're Spider-Man juggling a dozen flat screens walking out of Walmart. It is cheaper for Walmart's insurance to replace those flat screens than it is for the potential lawsuit or insurance payout or settlement or whatever if that security guard chases you, tackles you, and injures you. Why is it that we understand that in every other situation, no matter what crime the victim is guilty of, unless it directly threatened you provably, it doesn't matter what they did, you still committed a crime. Why do we suspend that with police? And the answer, well, because police have had centuries of being put as above the common people. It's only gotten worse in recent years. Hey, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the show. Remember to like, share, and leave a comment because it helps me. Subscribe and ring that bell to help you. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.